What's up, everybody?
Hello, hello. How's everyone doing?
Good to see you all. I can't really see you, but
see 'em,
I,
yeah.
I know you're there.
Yeah.
So awesome. Glad to have you with us. This is our monthly workshop. And Laura and I do a workshop every single month talking about building your own assisted living. And today we're talking about how to do that using SBA funding. And man, I wish I would have knew these kind of things. And so we'll unpack all of these lessons. But my first assisted living deal, I should say our first, we raised $1.1 million from private investors. And nobody told me, hey, I could just do this with SBA and I'd probably only have to raise $200,000, right? Like, just if somebody would have said, Brett, here are the steps, just do it like this and this and this, and you will be set. You can do this awesome big deal. I could have done a bigger deal. I could have done bigger and had better construction. And I could have, man, I wish I would have known these things. So that's why we're here, right? To share all the things that we screwed up and everything that we've fumbled through and perfected and are making a lot better and growing and scaling our businesses now.
Hey, our setback is their gain, right?
Yeah.
We're here to share all the secrets, and it's really not really a secret. It's honestly not really a secret. But before we get started, I wanted to say that if you have questions, please write them in the chat on the right-hand side of your screen. I will be answering them throughout the call, but then majority of the questions I want to save till the end. So if you are not a subscriber yet, you must be a subscriber in order to ask a question. So hit that subscribe button and then type in the questions on the chat box on the right-hand side, and we will get to those at the end.
Fantastic. All right, so we're going to jump right in. I'm not going to waste any time. We'll talk for, I don't know, maybe 30 minutes or so talking about SBA. And then feel free, as Laura said, we'll stay, answer all your questions and all of that kind of stuff. But I'm going to make this very practical for you tonight and talk through really what was it like going through SBA. So as I said, the first assisted living we did on Mesa, we raised $1.1 million to do this. And I actually did that all private money. Laura and I own 100% of it. And then after owning it for 2 years, we went and refinanced back out with a local commercial bank, paid off all of that. And so that was a good way to go, except I had to raise over $1 million, and that was not easy to do. I did not know that I could have borrowed the money from the SBA for furniture and working capital and marketing dollars and opening salaries and all of these things that, like, man, there's a lot of money you need to spend when you're doing a big deal. And so that's really my intention for you tonight, to set the stage and show you kind of step by step how to make this practical for you. I want to encourage you to do a big deal. That's what I really want to say. I don't think that these little 6 beds, 8 beds, 10 beds, I don't see them working. I know a lot of people that run them. They tell me, right, hey, I have to run 5 or 7 of these things in order to pay myself a reasonable salary, and my wife still has to work. And it's like, man, I don't know what to tell you. We consistently make 40 grand a month, so consistent for the last 5 years, right? And then again, you have the income to be able to hire multiple managers. We pay the best for all of our staffing and offer benefits, and we have a chef and all of these things. All of this is so important because honestly, it means that myself and Laura, we're not slave to our businesses. We can make great money, but our time freedom is the most important, right? We get to spend time with our kids. We get to travel. We get to set up all of these things to really enjoy the life that we want to live. And I honestly think that you cannot do that by doing a 6-bed and 8-bed, doing some crappy little deal. And so why we're talking about this tonight is because most people will not do a bigger deal because they can't get the funding for it. They don't know how to get the funding for it. And I'm pretty sure that almost everyone can do it. You may not be able to do it by yourself. You may have to bring on a partner, a money partner to do it. But pretty much everyone, as long as you're not like a criminal and have horrible credit, but like most people who have their crap together, 100% can do this. So it's just, how do you do it, right? So we're going to talk through that tonight. Very practical, how to do a deal like this. I'm going to share screen. We'll talk through some of these photos and slides and things like that. But here, let me show you right here. This is on the left. This is Mesa. This is where Laura and I first started. We raised $1.1 million on this. This was a home conversion. A great product that we've been running for about 5 years now. On the, I think I said on the right, it's on the left. On the right, that is our assisted living mansion that we are building out right now. So we are doing an SBA loan, and we have a neighborhood of mansions that we're building. It's actually 7.6 acres, and we're building out 4 10,000 square foot mansions. And it costs us about $2 million per building to build out. And then we had our land costs and site costs, and I'll share the numbers a little bit later. But I want to show you that really doing a deal like this is totally feasible if you have the financing behind it. All right, so here's actually, you can see both buildings there. That's our third and fourth building going in here. And so I think that this deal, if you do a $2-3 million deal, to most people it would seem unachievable, not possible. And I know that there's kind of typically two people or two groups of people that I talk to that are looking to do something like this. It's either kind of the real estate type of people who are intimidated by potentially the operations company, or it's the kind of nurse, caregiver type of avatar person that's intimidated by the real estate and or the funding, the lending, the investor part of this. And I think that you can do it. You might need to partner with someone to be able to do something like this, but I want to encourage you, like, here is at least the systems for the funding part of this, right? And you can therefore go and do one big life-changing deal, make $500,000 a year, right? Share that between you and your investor partner. And again, you can take the lion's share of it, but nonetheless, like, you can make great money and then build millions of dollars in equity by doing this kind of product. Even our assisted living that we did on Mesa, the first one with the home conversion, we still have a couple $1 million in equity in that building, right? Our new construction project, even more equity in each one of these. So there's a real estate play, and then there's an operations company play that are just massive. They're huge opportunities. And really for the next 20 years, like, so big on what the opportunity is with the baby boomers coming in. Man, you know what? People are living longer, and they're just living more unhealthy. I'm doing the research recently on dementia and Alzheimer's. The amount of people with memory care issues is crazy. It's like 40% of people that are in assisted living need memory type care, and that's so expensive, right? Ours is $8,000 to $9,000 a month. And it's like, man, whew, I mean, our expenses, we pay very well, and our building's expensive and all those kind of things. But man, you can make great money doing this kind of niche. So that's really the point and the encouragement to this. Do one big deal. I call it a one and done deal, right? You just need to do this one deal. It's going to be big. It's going to be hard. It's going to be scary. It's going to be a buttload of work. It'll take you, a year and a half plus to be able to do it. But after that, that's it. That's all you need, right? You're going to be very consistent. You have a retirement play. You have cash flow. You have more money than at least I can spend. I'm not a very fancy guy. I don't spend a lot of money. But it's good for most people, right? You'll be totally fine with these kind of things. So I want to unpack this and share about what this looks like and talk to you really about what SBA has to offer, because I think it's awesome. And you see here these two sides to my slide, right? There's the real estate side, and then there's the business side. And you can make money, or you can borrow money on both sides here. You can borrow money for the real estate. So consider this. You're going to buy some type of land, right? It's either going to have a building or not, but you're going to borrow money for the land, right? And you'll also borrow money for the building, whether it's attached to it or whether you're going to build new construction or whether you're going to do a big old renovation or addition. SBA will fund all of those kind of things. It'll fund the site work, right? That means like pouring driveways, connecting to the utilities, the landscaping, all of that kind of stuff. You're going to have to hire architects and engineers and do this kind of stuff as well. Sometimes it's a lot, sometimes it's a little, but still SBA will fund that capital that you spent to do all of your planning and that kind of stuff. They'll repay that money even if you've already spent it. So that goes into the loan. All of the permit fees, right? All the things that go back and forth with the city and the county and the state and all these little fees that you got to pay, they will take care of that. They'll roll that into the loan also. Same with the bank fees. And honestly, SBA, it's a little bit more on the fees. Actually, it's kind of a lot more on the fees. So all of those fees you can roll into the loan as well. And then one of the most biggest things that you have out there as far as some of these fees and things is really the interest. If you're doing a new construction or you're doing a big remodel, it takes 6, 9, 12 months, right? You're going to be paying $100, $200, $300,000 over, that year period of interest. You can borrow that money. They will roll it all into the loan. And the same with the equipment. So all of the, the refrigerators and the freezers and washer and dryers, commercial washer and dryers, commercial dishwashers, all that stuff is expensive. You can borrow all of that money, roll it into the whole project. So that's on one side there, right? On the left side of my screen, you have all of the real estate stuff. But then this is the big deal right here. Everything on the right side of my screen with the business. This is why I love SBA, because you can borrow the money for the business. If you go over to your local bank and you say, hey, I want to get a commercial loan to do this, they'll say, great, you can borrow money for the land, for the construction, maybe for the fees, for the permit engineering kind of stuff. And that's about it. They're not going to give you money for all of the things I'm going to talk about next, which is really, it's doubling the down payment. If you have your down payment for the bank, and then you still have to go and get all this furniture and working capital and all that kind of stuff, it's like, man, I just went from needing 200 grand to now needing 400 grand or 600 grand. It's like, well, now I can't even do this deal. It's out of reach. And this is my message to you, that using the SBA, it is in reach. You can do a deal. That's what I'm trying to tell you. It's not out of reach. It's hard, but it's not. If you have your crap together, you can get it done. So here's what the SBA will lend. They'll lend all of the furniture and decor, all of that kind of stuff. Laura's spending like 80,000+ per mansion for all of our furniture, and she went to town, bought the most gorgeous, badass stuff. And so you can borrow all of that money there. Working capital, 100, 150 grand you can put towards working capital. You can use that for, all of your salaries, pre-opening, hiring your manager. You can use that for all of your marketing, your open house, your advertising in the local paper, and all of those kind of things. That's really important. The next really important thing on this is that even after your building is built and you've got your license and you're starting to move in your first set of grandmas, it's not like you're profitable right away, right? You're not like, hey, I'm making my 40 grand day one. It doesn't really work that way. So the SBA will lend you about 6 months of interest payments that you don't have to make your mortgage payment for that first 6 months. So really, it's almost like 18 months. You don't have to make a mortgage payment through construction or remodel and then into your lease up. And again, if you're buying an existing facility, it's very similar, right? You don't really have the construction part, but you may want to borrow money through getting through stabilized part. So, honestly, there's so much extra capital here that you could borrow. And that's really important because it keeps the equity, the ownership in your court, right? It doesn't, you don't have to go do like this syndication where you're going to have like 15% of this deal, right? I know all these people get into apartments and do syndication. It's like, oh yeah, I have 600 doors. Bro, you have like 8% of 600 doors and you make 50 grand a month. I have one business that I work 2 to 4 hours a week on and we make way more than that. Like, let me show you how you can do one deal. It's way easier and take the lion's share of the equity. And it's just like, and you're actually helping people. You're making a difference. And my grandma actually was in there, right? I was able to take care of my own family, and it's a huge advantage to be able to do those kind of things. So I want to talk a little bit about the terms for SBA. What does it look like? And here's roughly a couple of the items here. SBA does have a cap. It's a $5 million cap. It doesn't mean your deal is capped at $5 million. It's the loan amount. They can loan up to $5 million on SBA. You can also go and borrow more money in a second position on a commercial loan, and they'll call it a pari passu loan. And we actually did that. Our deal on phase one was 7.2 or 7.6, something like that, of a loan. So a $5 million SBA, and then I think it was 2.4, something like that, 2.4 in second position on a pari passu loan. So SBA, another great thing is it is just one loan. If you're doing construction or remodel, you don't have to get a bridge loan. You don't need like this construction loan and then you have to go refinance and do it. It's just one loan. So it has really about, if you're doing a big construction remodel, you'll have about 26 months of principal and interest only payments, and then it'll naturally move to PITI, which is principal and interest and tax and insurance, all of that kind of stuff. So it's a 25-year fully amortized loan. And usually it is floating. So it can be fixed, but I see more common than not that it is floating, meaning it's a variable loan. So it's usually the Wall Street Journal Prime plus a certain amount. And again, the more experience you have, the more capital behind you, the more you have ability to negotiate that and leverage. There is also a 3-year prepayment penalty to the SBA. So meaning if you go and do a deal like this, you can't do it for less than 3 years without paying a fee, right? So in that first year, it's a 5% fee, which is huge. The second year, it's a 3% fee. And then in the third year, it's a 1% fee. So at least just wait till month 37, right? If you're building, you can build this thing in 9 months, get it licensed, and then have 2 years to get your crap together, stabilize, make a profit, and then you go and you refinance back out with your local commercial lender. And you can usually get a better rate because also you're less risky at that point, right? You'll build with equity, go to your local bank on year 3, buy out or pay off the SBA loan, and then go to your local bank. And that way, honestly, I think that's the best way to go. SBA, what I think is awesome is they will lend 80 to 90% of all the capital. So we just talked through all this money they're going to lend on, right? They'll lend, I see a lot of people coming in and with only 10% down. That means you can do a $2 million deal and come in with 200 grand, right? Like grandma's got 200 grand somewhere she can give you, but it's not hard to raise $200,000 when you're talking about an awesome deal like this, right? It makes so much money. You can cut the investor in on some of this. And again, like it's not a ton of cash. So that's kind of really what I see for us, right? We did a larger project. We did a larger deal. We're building 2 mansions and all the infrastructure for the rest of the neighborhood. So we had a 15% down payment on our deal. But again, usually 10 to 20% down is pretty common for the SBA. So speaking of what our deal looks like, I want to show you our numbers here. And this is our project. We are nearly done with phase 1. If you are following us on social, on Facebook, on Instagram, please do that at assistedlivingmansion.com. You will see all of the footage there in real life. Here's what's going on. So we bought this 8 acres, and then we have 4 buildings that we're putting in, and they're each 10,000 square feet. And they're gorgeous, huge mansions, 16 private rooms, 16 private bath. And so it cost us about 1.7. There was some change order and stuff. So let's just round it to $2 million because it got closer to about $2 million per building. So about $2 million for each building, right? We bought the land for about $625. And again, we spent less on the land because there was not a lot of utilities. There was a lot of earthwork we had to do. So our site work was expensive. It was $1.8 million. Divide that by that 1.8 by our 4 projects or 4 buildings. It was, 4 and change. So it ended up being, we are about 2.5 million per building, right? And that's all hard costs, meaning that's what's going into the actual real estate component of it. We borrowed more capital than that, right? Because we borrow all the soft costs that the SBA does also, all of the interest reserves, the builder overages, the lease up reserves, the working capital, the furniture, all of those kind of stuff. So average up a little bit over $3 million per building. So when everything is said and done, we will be roughly about a total development cost of $11 million. All right, so we'll be all in an $11 million. But here's what's amazing. We will have this, when we go to sell this in probably 5 to 10 years, this will be a $30 million sale, right? That's what we're looking at. Right now, we'll have 2 of our 4. Right now, we have an appraised value of $13 million for our project. Right, 13 million on half of it. Then it'll go up, and then again, we'll look to sell in 5 to 10 years. So we're looking at a $30 million exit with $11 million in debt. We'll pay that off, and it's really just me and Laura, an investor, and it's like, boom. Like, this is how you're able to do a massive deal, right? That's what I want to encourage you. You don't have to do a project this big because it wasn't my first one, but you could do just your first one and still walk away from this in 5 or 10 years with couple $1 million in your pocket that you're ready to do something with. And that's not counting the cash flow, right? We will cash flow $2.5 million, again, just to Laura and I. And that's, I don't know what to tell you. We're not very fancy people. We just save it and we buy more real estate with it, right? Like, what would you do even with 40 grand a month? I want to tell you that you should do a big deal like this. Don't do that crappy little 6-bed. It's not going to get you anywhere. You're going to spend the next 2 or 3 years working like a dog and then quit and be like, this is just a waste of time. I should have listened to Brett. I wish someone would have told me. So I'm being pretty blunt and transparent with you here. So I want to show you really what the numbers look like on one of our mansions. So this is pretty much our exact numbers for a very typical deal of what we do. And this is literally itemized. This is what we turn into the bank, myself and our partners, when we are getting pre-qualified here. So if you are looking at this here, we are showing all these different itemized things. At the top, it's showing land, it's showing the building costs, it's showing the site work, permit plans, architect, and then there's all these other soft costs. These are the things that you get to borrow from the bank, right? From the cost overruns, the contingencies for the builder, appraisal costs, all these different doc fees, environmental fees, bank fees, all this kind of stuff, right? You get to borrow all of this kind of money. And it really, I think a typical deal for what we do is about $3 million. $3 million is total development cost, meaning that's everything. That's the land, that's the building, that's the furniture, the fixtures, that's all of your working capital, that's your safety net and oh crap factor money, right? Hopefully you finish this project and you have a couple $100,000 that's just sitting there in the reserve account. But if things go wrong, because it is construction and it does happen, right? You have money in an oh crap factor sitting in this little, bucket in the bank account. If you use it, great. If you don't, even better. So that's what it would look like, right? If you had a project like this, total of about $3 million, and you said to the bank, hey, here's what I want to do. Let's do an SBA loan. They'll say, okay, cool. Well, you're probably going to be 10, 15, on the probably a higher side, 20% down. And I think 10 to 15 is pretty common. So it's 300,000, 450,000. Those are not crazy unachievable numbers, right? Those are kind of numbers that I think a normal person who has their stuff together, who has good credit, who has, a good job, who has relationships with people that know, like, and trust them, you can raise $300,000 to $400,000. That's not crazy. What that allows you to do is do one big deal, right? Where you can make 40 plus grand a year. You can cut in your investor and then you just say, hey, here's my plan. I'm going to run this for the next 5 or 10 years and then we're going to sell and we'll split the profits however you like to do it. So, I mean, it kind of is that simple. There is a few things that go into it prior to this. So I want to share what those are. And I say there's really 4 things. These are actually really important things. This is what the SBA, the bank, they want to see before they will give you a full loan. And usually you'll go back and forth with the bank, right? They'll do kind of a soft pre-qualification. You'll send in all your taxes and bank statements and all of that kind of stuff, right? And they'll say, okay, yeah, we will, approve, give you a proposal for such and such, right? And you're giving loose numbers back and forth. It's all loose numbers and a proposal until you're able to submit these 4 things. So here's what the 4 things are. It's a full plan set. Now, if you're building new construction, it's literally full architectural engineering kind of plans. You need to see all of that kind of stuff. If it's an existing building, you really don't need it, right? It's existing. Like, I don't need a plan set. That's what it is. It's not really applicable. If you're doing a remodel, you probably need some kind of plans, right? You probably need some, architectural stuff. Doesn't have to be crazy. The second thing that the bank's going to want to see is approved permits, right? If you're doing any kind of remodel, they want to check that we are getting permits there. They want to see them, all these permits done, submitted. They're going to check all these kind of things. So that even the fire marshal, right? If you're converting a building, you're doing a house renovation, remodel, and you know what? Like, you're probably going to need to go through all that fire marshal kind of stuff and do those permits, planning and zoning, those kind of things, all of the kind of things there. There's a lot that actually goes into that. So that's the second thing. The third thing is they want to see a hard bid from a general contractor, some kind of builder to say, okay, well, here's the plans and here's the permits. Now, based on these plans, here's what it's going to cost. And usually they don't want to see just one number at the bottom. They want to see it all broken down and itemized, because the bank has a construction department, and the construction department knows what they're talking about. They do loans all over the country, and they're going to look at all these numbers and say, okay, well, here's what your framing and your sheetrock and your paint and your utilities and your fire sprinklers. Okay, this seems in line. It seems reasonable, right? They're going to actually go and vet your builder. He's going to have to submit all of his background stuff, his tax returns, his bank statements. They're going to want to check and make sure your builder is not just Joe Schmo who's like your cousin who's like, oh, bro, I'm going to bid it high and then we'll save some money on the backside. Like, that kind of stuff. They don't play that game. They take this seriously. It's a serious deal. So that's the third thing. When you have all three of those things in, then they say, hey, you know what? It looks like you got your ducks in a row. Let's do the fourth thing, which is ordering the appraisal. When they do an appraisal like this, it's a commercial appraisal. It's usually, $5,000 to $10,000. I think mine was like $8,000. They're going to do really two parts to this appraisal. They're going to appraise the real estate, what the building will be worth. If it's already built, right, then they'll say, okay, here's what it is. But if you're doing a remodel or if you're building new construction, they're not going to look at what's the cost of the vacant land, right? They're going to look at what's the cost of the building, the mansion, when it's done, right? Whether it's in 9 or 12 months, what will it be worth? And they'll look at comparables for that. So they'll say, okay, your real estate will be worth this. Your business, they'll also give you a future value of what your business is. And they'll do that because they'll do a market study. You'll submit all your pro forma and all of those kind of things, and they'll do comps of really what the market looks like. And honestly, I did all that homework for them, and I submitted a big package, and I said, here's what everything is, right? I secret shopped all these persons. I talked to this person. Here's their pricing. I want to make sure they had all the real numbers. So you get this appraisal back, and if everything is good, right, your appraisal didn't come in crazy low, then from that point, they'll give you a loan commitment. So you were at a proposal before, now you're at a loan commitment. And with this, it's usually about 6 weeks after that. You can accept or counter or whatever you want to do in this commitment. But if you say, hey, I'm good with these numbers, you sign there, you get all your ducks in a row, you got to send a whole list of all this kind of different paperwork they're going to ask for. But then it's really about 6 weeks. And then you close, you sign loan docs, and then it's like, okay, well, now we're going to start construction. And here's, the invoice for, starting construction and all that kind of stuff you start. So I hear people talk about SBA being like so crazy and overwhelming and all that kind of stuff. If you have your stuff together, if you're an intelligent person and you're organized and you have your tax returns and you can fill out these forms and stuff, it's not bad, right? It's a decent amount. It's kind of a lot, but it's not like, oh my gosh, it's so horrible. Like if I was the bank, I would want the same stuff. I want to check to make sure you have your stuff together and you're not trying to cheat me, right? Like it's pretty reasonable actually. So kind of winding this down here, right? SBA, I think that most people should do this if they're looking to do an assisted living deal, because for sure, you're going to need less capital down, right? That's one of the hugest advantages. You need to bring less money to the table, which therefore means you have to borrow or bring in less money from investors, which means really, right, you keep more of the equity. That's really what you want. How do I keep the most amount of equity and be able to do a big deal? So it's kind of a balancing act. With SBA, I mean, it's literally probably 1/3 the amount you'd have to bring in if you went to, say, your local commercial lender. So much less requirements there. The other thing is, honestly, on the con side, it's higher fees. It is. It's higher fees. It's probably an extra $50,000 to $100,000 in extra fees, right? It's just lost money, to be frank with you. But it is what it is. You pay to play, and then the interest rate is higher. That also is what it is. I don't consider this my forever loan. It's a 25-year loan. I'm not going to have it for 25 years. I'll have it for 3 years, 4 years, maybe, probably 3. And then I'll go to my local commercial lender and I'll get a new loan there, right? Because I'm not going to be risking that time. Makes SBA a great first loan and not your forever loan. So that's kind of my thoughts for you. There is a couple things that I want to address next. And it's really these kind of other considerations, like what are the hurdles that you should consider if you're trying to do something like this? And you may say, Brett, that's great, but I can't do a deal in my city because the zoning says I can't do these kind of things. Man, you know what? First and foremost, if you are considering this, I would tell you that I'm not here to sell you anything tonight. I'm just sharing my story, but I do have some free courses on our website, assistedlivingmansion.com. There's actually 3 of them, and they will answer all of these questions right here. How do I get through the zoning, right? Because if you're going to do a big deal like this, it's probably not going to be residentially zoned. We have gotten agriculture land and did that, got a special use permit to change that into what they considered as commercial. We also did an area that was non-zoned. It was outside of the city limits and there was no zoning in those areas. There are ways to do this in every single city, in every single state. They have big smelly facilities in every city, right? If you can have a 64 bed, you can have a 16 bed. There's nothing stopping you from doing it, right? You can get through the right zoning. You can find the right location. You can get the right license type. You may say, oh, well, no, for my license type, no, I'm stuck with 6 beds. No, that's the wrong license type. Do the bigger deal. Do the bigger license type. I know it's more work. I know there's more stuff. That's what you need to do. And you can find an investor. I have, like 26 videos on SBA, lenders, investors, deal structure. It's like 3 or 4 hours of just like hardcore content. Here's exactly what we do. And again, it's all free. Like go and check this out, right? Really our goal, our hope with this whole thing and why do we do this every month is we went through a whole bunch of crap and we had to go figure this out the hard way. And I just wish somebody would have told me, hey, Brett, do this and this and this. Honestly, right? Like we're building our assisted livings here in Georgetown. You're not in Georgetown. You're not competition to us. Go take it all. Make a difference. Change some grandmas' lives. Man, we've helped so many hundreds of grandmas and grandpas at the end of life. And it's awesome. And it's amazing. And it makes a huge difference. And you can make amazing money doing it. And it's awesome. So I want to encourage you, go do a bigger deal. And SBA is the way to do it. So that's really all I got for you tonight. Kick it back over here to Laura.
SBA is the way. Sorry, that's what when
Right?
you said that, it was like, oh, it just sounds like a chant. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, awesome. Well, we have some questions. We want to go over the next month's
Yes.
first? Yeah, let's do that. So we are doing a workshop next month. We do these monthly, and they are a different topic every month. So next month, we will be talking about how to fill your beds. So that will be on Thursday, April 3rd. He took the slide down too soon.
There it is.
Thursday, April 3rd at 6:30. Again, live here on YouTube. So be sure to check that out. As Brett was saying earlier, we have a free foundations training at assistedlivingmansion.com. Again, it's hours, lots of hours of free training. It's all the training that we wish we would have gotten in the very beginning. All the things you wish you would have known getting started in this. And so again, our hope is just to really just help you, to educate you and to help you along your assisted living mansion path. We also have a Facebook group. So if you want to join our Facebook group, head to Facebook. It's Assisted Living Mansion. Go on there. We have a community of individuals that, ask questions, and we really rally together to help each other throughout this process. And we also have a couple podcasts. Brett and I have a podcast called The Donkey and the Bee, where we talk all things marriage, entrepreneurship, and finances. And then Brett has his own podcast talking all things assisted living investing. So everything from, finding land, investors, and bank financing and construction. And then we also talk about operations as well. So everything under the umbrella of assisted living, check that out. It's called Assisted Living Investing. And with that,
Awesome.
we have some questions.
All right. Let's
So DJ asked, will SBA fund existing facilities, and how much down? Okay. Yes. Okay. How much down if seller carry? I heard some are doing 0 down.
Yes, it is possible to have you put 0 money in, because in some circumstances, the seller carry can put that money for down payment. There is specific rules on it, and I've never done it, so I don't want to tell you misinformation, but I know it is possible to do 0 down. If you have a seller carry, the seller will have to be in the second position to the SBA loan.
Renardo asked, do I have to put up my house as collateral to get a loan?
No. We did not. No, usually do not. Now, it really comes back to the appraisal. Appraisal is super important. You want to have a strong appraisal. So if you have a strong appraisal and then you have to put no collateral after that, it will just be, it's a series of events. The first thing first is the bank's collateral is the real property, what you are loaning against. If that is not strong enough, then and only then will they look at other pieces of collateral, perhaps rental properties that you have, other investments that you or maybe your investor partner have, really anyone with more than 20%, they would go in and ask for these things. If that's not applicable, it's possible they might ask for your personal residence. In some states, it's illegal for them to collateralize your personal residence, so you can check on that. And if that was either good or there was not sufficient enough, then a third option would be they could ask you to get an additional life insurance policy, and they would, again, have that as part of the collateralization. But it all goes back to just have a great appraisal. The other thing is it's not like a traditional bank where it has to be like 80% loan to value kind of thing. I want to say because it's 85% and don't quote me on this, but ultimately you can borrow more money with SBA and they're less worried about the collateralization because the government is covering their loan up to 75% or something to that effect. So there's very little risk on the bank.
Okay, Chloe asked, we're a couple planning to do this and thought of a question. My husband will quit his job when we are close to being finished with the build to do the day-to-day opening and training of the manager staff. I will keep working, but now having one income, will SBA cover any small salary for him working daily there to get it up and running for the first few months? Now, before you answer it, we did have someone answer it. Dave answered, we baked salaries for the owners into the first few years, but we don't start taking them until we are also paying the first employees.
That's a good answer. So SBA is going to ask you about this. They want to know that during construction and lease up, which is the riskiest time for the bank, that you are able to cover your own expenses. So they're going to look at what have you been spending? What is your income? If you are both still working, great. That's probably more than sufficient. If one of you stops working, is that sufficient? And if one person makes plenty to cover your budget and what you spend, and again, they'll look at what you're spending, then it's no big deal. If it's not sufficient, then they're going to want to look at your pro forma, and then they're going to make sure that there is enough for at least living expenses covered on your pro forma to pay yourself a small salary from that perspective. So some people will try and not put a salary for the owner into their pro forma to make it look like they have a better deal. And that's fine. You can do however you like. But if you are getting tight on that, then they will insert a salary for you in there, not usually an aggressive one, but enough to make sure that you're covering your ends meet.
DJ asked, who is your preferred SBA lender?
Oh my goodness, the secrets.
I know, right?
Live Oak Bank is who we lend with. They lend to a lot of our partners. There's actually, on my podcast, there is an interview that I do with our lender. It was a really great episode a few months ago. I would check that out on the Assisted Living Investing podcast. It's also on my YouTube channel.
Speaking of secrets, someone also asked, do you have a site plan you're willing to share so we can see how you are utilizing your 8 acres for the 4 buildings?
I wonder if it's on anything on YouTube. I don't think it is. I mean, I don't have a problem showing you guys. Actually, hell, pretty soon you just look at the satellite view, you'll see it, right?
I know, right?
Right, like right now, currently on Platinum Resort's website, does it show? Yeah, you can see the address. If you go to book a tour, it shows you here's the address of the new property. But yeah, soon we'll have everything done there. So you'll see virtual walkthroughs and everything, and you can pull up satellite view and you can look at our property.
Okay, let's see. Last question. Could you please describe what the SBA process looks like for someone buying an existing facility rather than building from scratch?
Well, I've never done it myself, so I don't think it's that different, except you're just not going to do construction. So they're going to do all the same things, right? I shouldn't say all the same things, but they're obviously you don't have to do permits and things like that, but they're going to look at your pro forma, they're going to look at your numbers, they're going to do an appraisal on these kind of thing. And again, it still has to make sense from a cash flow kind of perspective. And SBA is more of a cash flow centered loan than a debt to income kind of ratio kind of loan. So if you're buying an existing business, does it make sense, right? If it's a fully functioning, great looking business and it doesn't cash flow with the loan, you're going to have issues there. If it is a poorly run business with no income or something like that, they're going to want to know what is your plan and pro forma to turn this thing around. How can you justify I need to raise the bed rates by $2-3 grand a month to be able to do these kind of things? And really, they're going to look at it all of those kind of numbers and things.
Okay, we had one more question that came in. Is there a limit to the number of SBA loans someone can have going on at one time?
Yeah, I believe it's just one loan. You can't have 2 SBA loans. Now, to clarify, I have friends that have one SBA loan, but they have multiple properties under that loan, right? But you can only have one SBA loan at a time. So for context, we have one SBA loan. It's against our 8 acres and 2 buildings. I cannot go and build building number 3 and 4 on a new SBA loan. I will have to go refinance that SBA loan that we have to my local bank, put it on a commercial loan, and then go and get a new 1 SBA loan to build number 3 and number 4. Yeah.
That's all, folks.
Well, good.
That's all
Those
we
are great
got.
questions.
Yeah,
Good
they're
job,
really
guys.
good questions.
Awesome. Well, please come back next month. We're doing this every single month. April 3rd is what Laura said. We hope to see you guys there. We're talking about filling your beds. Man, Laura crushes it at selling these beds. She is a master. She's very humble, but the amount of leads that we have coming in every single week is ridiculous. We've gotten our wait list over 50 people. We're selling tons of beds on our projects now that, again, we're not even done yet, taking deposit checks left and right. And so we're going to be talking about that, how to sell beds before you've even done with construction, or even if you're buying an existing facility. How do you fill these beds up as fast as you can, right? And again, we expect that we'll have nearly all of our beds sold before we even get to that place with licensure and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Again, check us out on Instagram, Assisted Living Mansion. Check us out on Facebook. Join our Facebook group, Assisted Living Mansion. And if you just want to just check out our website, see what we're about, assistedlivingmansion.com. I know we've said Assisted Living Mansion lots of times, but it's easy to remember. So we're excited for next month, and have a good night.
Awesome. All right. See you all later.
Bye, y'all.